Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. The match previews are returning. This one does have to be recorded before both of our Boxing Day matches due to the fixtures being too close together. So our game with Huddersfield and West Brom's game with Bristol City is happening on Boxing Day, and then 3 days after that we're both playing each other, Preston versus West Brom. Once again, we are joined by Andy to talk about his side for the final game of 2022. So we'll start off with you. As results, you've had a very mixed season so far. You started off with some very poor results, but your performances were actually pretty good. You just weren't scoring the goals. During the second half of the first half of the season, you sacked Bruce. You got a caretaker manager in, Richard Beale, before getting the old Huddersfield Town manager in Carlos Corberán. How would you rate your performances since making that switch?
Okay, I feel, Oliver, as though I've gone into some sort of alternative universe where I watch my team and it's got to the point where I expect them to win. And I can't remember the last time it was like that, probably about 3 years ago in the Championship. But the word on the street with Corberán, and this is what the players seem to be saying to a man, is that he goes into an infinite level of detail with them. When they go on the pitch, they know exactly what's required of them. And the suggestion is that under Bruce, that wasn't the case. That whatever was happening in between the matches simply wasn't preparing them for the games they were playing. He also seemed to have fallen out with a couple of critical players, most notably Kyle Bartley, who gives us leadership at the back. So since Corberán's come, the difference in the team, they're fighting for every single match, and the whole team is defending. It's not just the back four. We've got an average back four, to be fair, but the whole team's defending. In the last 6 matches, I think we haven't conceded in open play. We've conceded 2 penalties. So the differences really are at the back. And the only other difference is that you may recollect last time I referenced DK, this striker who'd spent an entire year sort of lounging around in the physio's room. Well, we've actually managed to get him on the pitch a bit, and he is a beast, and he gives us a presence up front that we haven't had previously. So, yeah, 2 things. Whole team's fighting for every game. They clearly know what they're doing. They're defending as an entire team. They're not just leaving the back four to it. So much more enjoyable to watch when you've got a team that you feel is actually fighting for every game they're playing in.
Yeah, it seems like you've turned a corner now. Corberán's come in. You've won 5 out of your 7 games under him so far, which it did start with a defeat, but then you beat Blackpool 1-0, so I was happy about that. And then you went on and won 5 in a row, and then you did lose to Coventry City 1-0 from that late penalty the other day. But obviously your results are much better now under Corberán than they were with Bruce. But if we were to look deeper into the performances and compare them between Bruce and Corberán, is there a difference? Have you noticed that, or is it pretty much similar, but just taking your chances this time under Corberán?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that we're any better at taking chances, but when a team's got more belief, what you start to see happen is that players make those runs into the forward positions to receive the ball in a way that they don't do when they're losing confidence. And that's how it was in the end under Bruce, and in the little period with the temporary manager, the players simply had lost the belief. They weren't making those runs, they weren't getting into space. And that's obviously all come back. So we do look better going forward. He's also made some personnel changes. So he's started playing Tom Rogic that we got from Celtic. He's kind of got more pace really into central midfield. He's left, dare I say, he's left Grant out of the team. Grant was somebody I think he had previous experience of at Huddersfield, and he's clearly decided that he's not somebody you need in a team that should be fighting for, every single point. So yeah, we do look better going forward, but it's that defensive solidity of the whole team working as a unit that's the biggest change in what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think that it's also not just down to the footballer's ability, but the personality of the manager and the relationship he has with the team. And I think that could be a reason as well, because I'm not sure about you, but I can't really imagine Bruce being a fun guy to work with, and that he doesn't really, I don't know, he doesn't participate in many fun things with the rest of the squad, so he might not get the relationship. There might not be a very good relationship between Bruce and the West Brom squad. But now that you've got this new fun manager in, you might be that just might be one of the reasons of the improvement. But do you think you'll be able to keep this good run of form up? Because I think he took over when you were in 23rd, and now you're currently in 16th, 5 wins from 7 so far. And if you keep that up through the second half of the season, then you'll definitely make it into the playoffs. So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I mean, you know that the margins in the Championship are tiny, aren't they? And this season, probably more so than any previous season I can remember. So if you have that good atmosphere that you're talking about, and we could see that from, if not game 1, then certainly game 2 with Calveron. It was quite clear the players were playing for him. You can see that in his interactions with the players. You can also see that whereas Bruce used to stand there on the touchline with his arms folded with this perplexed look on his face, pretty much from minute 1, with Calveron, he's, he can be animated at times, but it's always about getting information onto the pitch to help the players. There was none of that with Bruce. In the end, with Bruce, it was a case of I think he must have thrown the players' names up in the air the night before and seen which 11 landed, and they were the 11 that he picked for the next game. So Calveron, much more purpose, and much more togetherness. Can we keep it going? Gosh, we've got to have a chance, because I do think that the squad overall is one of the better squads in the Championship. But I do also think that DK's injury status is going to be pivotal in this, because he's a real handful up front. And even if he's not scoring goals, he's creating so much havoc up there that other players will feed off that. So I do think that's going to be critical. Without him in the team, we still look a little bit short in the box, quite honestly. So, if you don't convert those chances, doesn't matter how well you're playing, you perhaps don't pick up the points that you need to pick up. But Calveron's the best manager we could possibly have had under the circumstances, and we've got a chance of getting into those playoffs now. I feel work to be done, but there's a good chance.
Yeah. Do you have any more suspended players or injured players coming into this game? I know you've still got the Boxing Day game, but any current players that are out with cards or injuries?
Yeah, we've got, as I say, he restored Bartley to the team, but Bartley's then been out, I think, with injury, first of all, and he missed the last match with illness. And he's more critical than you might think, because at set pieces, he's pretty much the only player in our team that's capable of getting on the end. And he does it with a fair degree of regularity. If anybody else connects with the ball, it's going over the bar, it's going wide, it's not going on target. Bartley's a real threat. So he potentially could be coming back, I guess, for the Preston game. I've not quite heard what's going on. That would be good if he did. DK is, at the moment, he's not playing full games. I think he's had one match where he started. He's had a couple off of the bench. So if he's involved in the Preston game, that would be good. I think they're nursing him through a bit, trying to avoid further injuries. And obviously we've got the Boxing Day game. So I don't know whether he will or won't be involved and to what extent there. And then we've also got Ajayi, the centre-back that we got from Rotherham. who, in terms of his ability to cover ground and his athleticism, is probably one of the best centre-backs in the Championship. So if Bartley's not there, you'd like to think he'd be involved. We've been playing Eric Peters recently because we've had Bartley out and we've had Ajayi out. And then the other guy that has been in and out is Dear Garner with injuries. So hopefully he'll be involved in some way in the Preston game. So, yeah, hoping players are coming back rather than getting injured. But we've got another game to come, so so you never know. Never know.
Yeah, we had a few. It was a mysterious injury actually. Before the Blackburn game, 5 of our first team players just suddenly weren't named on the bench or even on the starting 11, and apparently after the game they just picked up little injuries. But during the World Cup break, it was just so odd that 5 of our main players, it was Emile Rees, Alan Brown, Andrew Hughes and Brady, that all and Ali McCann, that also Sean Maguire as well, but he's not really one of the main players. But they all just got this sudden injury, and there's lots of rumours going around that they've fallen out with the club. One of the players deleted all of his Preston photos on his Instagram accounts, but they've since reappeared. But they should be back. 3 of them, the manager said 3 of them should be back for Boxing Day, but he's not going to name any names. He doesn't want to give anything away, but I don't know about that. It was a bit of a weird situation over the past few weeks with our players. Is there any particular time of the game where you're most vulnerable at, where you might look like conceding a goal?
Well, judging by the match at Coventry the other night, I've got to say the 3rd minute of injury time when we conceded the penalty. But I think, quite honestly, it depends who's on the pitch. If DK is on the pitch, we're a better team. So if he starts on the bench and then comes onto the pitch, we'll look more dangerous when he's on. And equally, if he's starting off the pitch, starting and then going off, we perhaps won't look quite as dangerous once he's gone off. So I think that's one of the things. We went through this habit under Bruce of letting the goal in the first 15 minutes of virtually every single game Bruce was in charge of. And in the end, he just despaired. I mean, he's the manager. He was a centre-back. His son was on the management team. He was a centre-back. And you just thought, well, what are you doing with the players? You're either not motivating them or you're not coaching them. It's one or the other. But we seem to have got that out of our system. So, yeah, we've had a couple of games where we've been better in the second half under Calveron. So, yeah, first half might be Preston's best chance possibly. But as I say, it does link with DK and when he's on and when he's not on.
Okay, yeah, we don't do particularly well for the first 15 minutes of the game and also the first 15 minutes of the second half. And if it's 0-0 towards the end of the closing stages of the game, then we'll just try and hold on for a 0-0. But before we do go into the score prediction, I just want to mention this is the final game before the January transfer window opens. So are you looking to do any business this January? I know some clubs are quiet during January, but is there any areas that you need to improve?
Okay, the word on the street is that we're in a bit of financial bother. So I would be staggered if we brought anybody in the January transfer window. I haven't heard that that's going to happen. If the players stay fit, then being realistic about it, the positions that I might want to improve might be the fullback positions, but the amount of money that we'd have to spend to improve those positions, I don't see that happening. I mean, whether it's possible we might get somebody from a Premier League team on loan, maybe that might happen, I don't know. But I think if the squad stays fit, I don't think, other than, as I say, the fullback positions, I don't think there's any particular positions I'd be looking to strengthen, really. It's about keeping those players on the pitch and out of the physio's room, really.
Okay. Last time you mentioned that one of your favourite players was Grady Diagana. How's he getting on under Corberan?
Well, he scored the second goal in our last home win, which was good for him. He came off the bench, but he still seems to be a bit up and down. But I think Calderon's the sort of manager that will help him. He'll encourage him. He recognises talent. One of the things that's been noticeable since he's come in is that he does seem to have been picking the strongest players. And he'll flex that depending on form, whatever. He's not stuck in his ways, but I'm confident that he will do everything he can to get Grady Diagana, having an impact on that football pitch. But I think, we're not dependent on Grady. We have got other players out there now that are having quite a big impact on matches.
Okay, right. Well, we'll just go into the score predictions now. We obviously beat you 1-0 early on in the season. Last time we went to the Hawthorns, we won 2-0. But under your current form, I'm not really that confident, especially away from home. I know you've still lost a couple of games. And anything really can happen, but I feel like it'll be quite a low scoring one, and whoever the first team to score will probably go on to win it. So I'm going to edge a 1-0 victory to your side, West Bromwich Albion, for this game. But I suppose it does happen. It does depend on what happens on the Boxing Day games to see if any of us can get some form going. But a player that you do need to look out for is Ched Evans. He's started off the season pretty poorly, but he's scored 5 goals now in his last 5 games, I do believe now, during the World Cup break. Didn't affect him, and he scored 2 against Blackburn, scored a goal against Millwall and 2 goals against Bristol City as well. A player for you to look out for there. But who's what are your score? What's your score prediction coming in to this game?
Gosh, I'll tell you what, I don't know what to say, because I look at your away victory at Norwich, 3-2, wasn't it? And I look at your away victory at Blackburn, and I'm starting to ask myself the question: are you the sort of team actually that can pose problems for teams when you're playing away from home? So, and then you throw in the whole Christmas fixture congestion, so scores and results can be all over the place at Christmas, but it's a home game, isn't it? I've got to be brave. Like you say, I think it will be a low-scoring game. We have with Calderon for the first time, I think for, I don't know, is it 2 years or something, 3 years, who knows? We've actually come from behind to win a game, which we did at Sunderland. I think there's a bit more pressure at home, isn't there, if you go behind, really, from your fans, your supporters. I'm going to be brave, stick my neck out and say that somehow we'll get a 1-0 victory, and hopefully you won't get a penalty.
I don't think we will. We never get given penalties so far this season, and also last season we've even had clear penalties not being given, and it is a bit frustrating. But we don't seem to ever win penalties. Well, that'll finish off the match preview. Thank you very much for coming on, and you guys watching as well. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like, and I'll see you all in my next video. I'll see you all then. Bye.
Bye.